Hello and welcome to Getting to Know You. I'm your host, Robert Jakeway. On today's program, we're going to be talking with Mike Cognetti, who is the manager of Life Enhancement Services at Living Resources, and we're going to be speaking with Scott Mirs and Robert Desormeau, and about a very special project they've done. So let's go meet them. Scott, Robert, and Mike, thanks a lot for agreeing to be guests on the show today.
We're glad to be here.
Thanks for having us.
Nice to have you here. Now, before we start talking about your book and Living Resources a bit, my viewers are generally accustomed to having my guests give a bit of an introduction to themselves, a little biography. So, Scott, I'm going to start with you.
Okay.
Go right ahead.
Well, I grew up in Pennsylvania, about an hour away from Philadelphia. I was born in Utica, actually. I was born in the same hospital as Mike was.
Okay. I know Utica a bit too. So.
After 25 years in Pennsylvania, I moved to North Carolina for 4 years. I didn't really like North Carolina that much. It was kind of too racist for me.
Okay.
That's one of my problems. So we moved to New York State. My father is a Presbyterian minister, so he founded a church in Spencertown, which is right outside of Chatham.
Right.
So we moved here in 2001. So I didn't know anybody. I just knew my family. My sister, who lives in New Hampshire, with her husband and my niece and nephew. My brother lives with my parents right now. So we're all up here, all together. And I was having trouble finding a job that I really liked.
Mm-hmm.
So I was looking around and filling applications out, and finally I found a job at a Hannaford warehouse where they distribute food and stuff.
Yep.
I was working there. It was a high-paying job, very stress-oriented. And on my way home from one night, I got in my car accident.
Okay, so you had a car accident.
Yes, I don't even ask me to remember it because I don't.
Okay.
It's blacked out of my memory, which is probably a good thing because I don't.
Right.
All I remember is waking up in ICU. So I went through all the rehab. I went through Sunnyview, which is a rehab center.
Yes, I've heard of Sunnyview.
It's very good.
Yeah.
I would not be where I am without them. After that, I wanted to go back to work, but I needed more rehab. So I went to an NPRS, which is, I can't say it.
Neurological.
Yeah, Neurological Rehabilitation Services, which is a very extensive brain relearning step.
Okay.
And that's how I am where I am now.
Where you are right now?
Yeah.
Okay, and we're going to talk about the book just a little bit, so I'm going to stop you right there.
Okay.
How about you, Robert?
My name is Robert Desormeau. I am born and raised in Albany. I was a full-time bartender, and I enjoyed that very much. Good field to be in. And in 1989, I suffered a subarachnoid aneurysm on the brain, and I found out it was pretty serious stuff. And I also went to Sunnyview, and those people are miracle workers over there. I went to St. Peter's first, then I was shipped off to Sunnyview after many, many operations and things like that. And I was in the hospital a total of 9 months, 10 months, something like that.
It's a long time.
And and I eventually went home, and I went back to work for a few years, but it just, after a while, it just wasn't coming together, and I had to stop. I got Social Security disability, and I found program at Crotched Mountain at the time.
Right.
And that was awesome when I found that. learned from people like Mike and people like Scott who had suffered a brain injury, because the brain injury community is so small and it's wide open. Not a lot is known about it. But to be in a group with other people who went through the same things that I was going through and totally understood, I felt like a shape that just came home.
Absolutely, I would imagine.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And here we are today.
Yep. Okay. Now, Mike.
Hi there. As Scott mentioned, I grew up in the Utica area as well, and I came to the College of St. Rose for my undergraduate degree in 1996. I was a history and political science undergrad student, and through a series of kind of zigs and zags, and as many people happens in many people's lives, things change in college, and your goals and your perspectives and the way you view things and what you want to do with your life changes. And I ended up finding that there was a lot of great things going on as far as research and rehabilitation in the brain injury field that was going on at the College of St. Rose. And I took some interest in that, and that interest continued to grow and kind of turned into more of a passion. And been proud to say that the brain injury community has been kind of a home of mine for the last 7 or 8 years now. I was employed at Crotchet Mountain, as Bob mentioned, for 5 years prior to their closing in 2007 with their services here in New York. And shortly after, we relocated our program to Living Resources in Albany.
Okay. So you're Crotchet Mountain. I mean, I in the book it talks about Crotchet Mountain. So what was Crotchet Mountain exactly?
That was the program that I was hooked up with right out of NPRS. Laura Delahan is one of the first one who was the program director then and now is the one who found me.
Was it just people who were having the same issues getting together? Was it a rehab program?
With Crotchet Mountain, in New York State, there's something called the Traumatic Brain Injury Waiver Program.
Okay.
It's a program that offers people with traumatic brain injury services in their home so they can be with their friends, their family, their natural supports, and pursue their goals in their own communities as opposed to group homes, nursing homes,
Right.
and institutions. So someone like Scott received services in his home, counseling, you developed some skills, assistance with cooking your meals, maintaining your job, and things like that. Along the way, with the supports you receive there, you help get your car and you not drive again. So it's a community-based healthcare program. And we also have a group program, which was started there in about 2003 by members like Scott. These were people that were receiving services from there that felt isolated and wanted to get to know other people. And through talking to me, they said, let's get a couple of us getting together once a week. And that's where all of this really started from, was ideas generated by Scott and other people that were part of that Crotchet Mountain family.
So now, are you like an affiliate with Living Resources, or an actual part of the organization?
Last year, in June of last year, Crotchet Mountain shut down their services. They're a company that was based out of New Hampshire.
Okay.
They shut down their services here in New York, and our program, which is part of what they consider a structured day program, relocated to Living Resources.
Okay.
Most of the participants from Crotchet Mountain came with us.
Did you?
And many new members joined up with us once we got there.
It started out as 4 or 5 members of Brainstormers, is what we called it in the beginning.
Yeah, I took a note of that, the Brainstormers. So yeah, interesting title.
I just threw that out there, and that's
Yep.
what we called it.
Yep.
Like way back when.
Makes sense. Excellent, excellent.
The group,
Go ahead, Bob.
The group decided when Crotchet Mountain did go out of business that we wanted to stay together. And we interviewed other companies, and we found that Living Resources was the best fit for us. And I thank God that we did find that, because it's great.
Now, traumatic brain injury. Let's talk about that a bit, and we'll kind of move into the book itself. But I know that more recently, as a result of Bob Woodruff and his serious brain injury and his rehabilitation, being able to, I guess, bring the message really out there, more into the mainstream. And I was when you were talking, Robert, you mentioned the fact that you had an aneurysm, and Scott, you mentioned that you had a car accident. So one of the things you find out when you read the book also is that I would have always thought that a brain injury was a result of a blow to the head,
Right.
but that's not necessarily so.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, my brain injury happened not for a bump in my head, but being thrashed around.
Having your
and
head
stuff.
swollen or your brain
Yeah,
kind of
true.
washing around.
So
So it's a trauma to the brain, however it occurs.
Yes, there's really a couple categories, and there's some different terms that people use. Many times people refer to traumatic brain injuries as those injuries caused by trauma, be it a car crash, a gunshot wound, those types of things. And an acquired brain injury is also another term that's widely used. And those acquired brain injury is more generally used to describe those events like strokes or loss of oxygen to the brain and other types of things that may result in a brain injury.
Okay. Now, Robert, you mentioned it being a small community. I mean, is that true? I mean, how do you define a small community? I mean, is it just that is it really small? I mean, are there a lot of people we just don't know about?
That could be true. I think it's basically a small community, but it's unfortunately getting larger, with our boys in Iraq.
That's right.
And girls.
That's right.
And I just hope that we have enough services to help them as I've been helped and as Scott has been helped.
Right.
And I pray for that.
Now we're going to go to talk about the book now, and you all got together. There's I think you say there's 30 authors to this book, but it all started out through a very interesting process. And I was talking to Mike before we started airing today, and it was a product of a project-oriented intervention. So Mike, would you like to explain that a little bit, please?
Yes, I would. Many of the things that we do at Living Resources and many of the things that are great things that are going on in the capital region here in the brain injury community are the result of these long-term projects that people are working on. And what these are opportunities for people like Scott and Bob to share their expertise, their wisdom, and their knowledge and experiences as survivors of brain injuries with other people. So along the way, not only are they teaching and helping and making life easier for those that come after them with brain injuries, but they're working as educators of staff, they're working as advocates, but along the way they're doing great things to help themselves and develop new
That's what I was
skills.
gonna bring up.
So really, with the whole work, really the mechanism was to sort of get you involved in some project-oriented task and
Exactly.
To build these skills, and then somewhere along the road here, this idea was born. How did it happen?
Well, I don't know who brought it up in the beginning. It was just something that I don't know. It's hard how it came up. I don't know who came up with the idea, but we thought, we need to teach people on how to deal with other people with TBIs.
Okay, and people who don't have a brain injury, right? You wanted to do something so the people who don't have it, because I imagine the misunderstanding is huge.
Yes, it's
Oh, yeah.
huge. Some families are good, some families are different, some people don't even understand what brain injury is. We've had a few people in the program who have had hard families, and my family has been great, but that's mine.
Right. So I mean, I guess you didn't start out to write a book, and you wanted to have people learn more about what it is to have a brain injury.
Right.
And somewhere in the process, the idea of saying, why don't we put this together? I mean, did you think of writing a story and say, well, maybe we'll put these things together, and all of a sudden, wow, this looks like it could be a book?
No, the book was never an idea way back when it started.
Okay.
It was just such a pamphlet that we put together.
Okay.
That was, handed out to family members and maybe in a newsletter or stuff. Never thought this would happen.
You guys really expected that it would be something, maybe we'd make some color copies and staple this thing together.
Yeah.
And if we made 15 or 20 of them and gave them to some people that were that had children,
Yep.
that it would be a wonderful thing. And that was really the expectation. But along the way, as it picked up steam, you guys kept setting the bar higher for yourselves.
Which is, I think, terrific. Now, you focus specifically on a book that was really geared for children. Why is that?
Because children are forgotten in the brain injury community.
How so?
Because they don't know how they can help their parents be in the rehab. It's just,
Okay, it makes sense. I
Yeah.
mean,
We wanted to use the book as a tool for brain injury, and that you're not helpless. There are so many things you can do to help the brain injured person, and as well as family support groups, things like that.
There was a woman who attended our group, Scott, who, do you remember her? And she had 2 daughters. And what were some of the struggles that she had?
They didn't understand her brain injury. And she had 2 sisters that were not very helpful to her. So she came to the group and she was always complaining about her family situation. And
I can imagine it's very confusing to a child. I mean, if mom or dad, leaves the house one day and they're like mom and dad have always been, and then something happens, like an accident or whatever, and they might be in the hospital, probably would be in the hospital, and then when they come home, there's something different
Sure.
about them, right?
Right.
And
I
very
think brain
confusing.
injury is confusing to everybody, but especially to the children.
And even as adults, most injuries are something that you go through your rehabilitation process and then all of a sudden it's better.
Yeah.
And brain injury isn't always like that, and most of the times it's not. It's not something that ever recovers when things are normal again. And that can be that's confusing for adults, but that's something that's very confusing for children. And we had seen not only the toll that it was taking on the children, but we saw the toll that it was taking on this mother who was unable to do the things for her children that she wanted to do. And we thought this might be something to help that family out. Now, those kids are a lot older than they were when we started this project, and probably they're beyond this reading level.
This book has taken probably 6 years to complete.
Okay.
We had the text done, and then we took a break from it because we have moved from place to place to place about 4 or 5 different times. So we always had the book with us, but we are moving and changing, and so it lost some steam. But finally, we got going, the resources, and everything just took off from there.
Now you said one of the important connections, and as far as the whole development of this was the publisher, publisher of this book. You'd basically put it together as an idea for a book, right? And did you go out and look for a publisher, or did someone just come into your light that was happening?
Actually, an employee of Crotchet Mountain, Todd, I don't know his last name.
Todd Del Marter.
Todd Del Marter, who is part of Crotchet Mountain, found this publisher. And Mike met with him, and he was very enthusiastic, which helped us, and we learned a lot from him.
So did he guide you along the way? Did he give you some insight as to how to produce a book?
Yes, he was a friend of an employee, of a coworker, and basically he took a look at what we did, and he just believed that there was more of a story there than we even recognized, and that he thought that there was more potential to help people. And he kind of saw a vision, and he shared that vision with the group. And as a publisher, he gave you guys more hands-on control
Oh, God, yes.
in the publication of this book than probably any other authors that are out there.
How marvelous.
So what was important about Rich was that he understood the group process, and he understood that this was a project and that there was learning that needed to happen.
Yeah.
That takes
Also,
time. Go ahead, Scott.
We wanted the book to be ours, not someone who took over the book and took credit for it. You know, I know that happens in the
Okay,
industry or something.
I mean, when you look at it, and I'm going to encourage the viewers here to, you know, I'll do a little sales pitch for you to acquire the book. I mean, we'll definitely have it in the library here, but you know, the book isn't simply just a children's picture book. I mean, it tells a marvelous story. It teaches lessons. And it's got a lot of information around here, too. I think, as we were talking about before we started shooting, you know, there's a lot of information that I would imagine adults would benefit from. I did. I mean, I can tell you I don't know very much about this subject. So, you know, I'm really wanting people, I'm hoping I'm going to pique the curiosity of our viewers here. And now, one of the things a children's book requires, I believe, is an illustrator. I mean, because the words are great, and that's the storyline, but you got to have an illustrator. And you found a very special person to be your illustrator, right?
Carol Jordan.
Okay.
Yep.
She works at a place in Amsterdam she teaches art to kids who have
Disabilities.
And she was wonderful. She was very enthusiastic about the book.
And Carol also acquired a brain injury.
Yes.
I don't know how she got her injury, but that's another story.
Okay. Okay.
Once we saw the pictures, like here's Joey, he came to life. And
Did you have a decision on how Joey looked?
yeah,
Did she ask you would you like them to have this kind of hair or
actually,
eyes?
I
or-
think she just kind of ran.
She said,
with
"This is
that,
Joey."
didn't
There's an amazing story about where Joey came to life. Carol
That's
drew
right.
Joey when she was 7 years old. And she entered him in an art contest at her school, and she won a prize. And that picture of Joey was hanging on the wall, and when she went back to claim her picture and bring it back home, someone had taken it.
Oh no.
So her prize-winning picture as a 7-year-old girl was stolen, and Joey's been kind of kicking around in her head for years.
So she brought Joey back.
And she brought Joey
Yes.
back, and now Joey is hers.
How
You know, no
wonderful.
one can steal Joey anymore.
How wonderful! How wonderful! You know, and I guess when you create a children's book, also you've got to be careful of the balance. You know, you don't want to have the message too complicated for a young person, and I imagine a lot of young people would be able to share this with a parent. But you want to have it also attractive, as far as the eye-catching element, and really show the picture of what the words.
Yeah, we had some issues where the kid looked older than the mother, and that was, you know, we had to change things a little bit and make sure that the mother was always the parent, and you know.
And I like it because there's an element of having almost like a child draw the pictures. I mean, so like what kids would really, really relate to.
That's really just what we were looking for, too.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, that's the style that Carol tried to draw.
Yeah.
She tried to draw something that was a childlike image. She did an outstanding job, and as Scott mentioned, there were many times when this project was kind of put on hold because this was a pretty overwhelming task. We worked on this for a long time, and sometimes it just needed to be put away so we could focus on some other projects that the group had going on. And the task of illustrating the book was very overwhelming as well. And you guys have another project, which is the Survivor Connection newsletter, which
Which is how we found the
and
illustrator.
an ad was put in the Survivor Connection.
So you really looked. You asked. We want an illustrator, so and she responded.
She answered
Yes.
the ad. She was at a Brain Injury Association support group in Amsterdam, and she came across that newsletter, which we don't always know how they get where they go, but they do get distributed throughout
Nice
the
to
community.
track it there. Really. Good.
And she found it, and she called up and said, I'd love to do it. She had some sketches done within a few weeks, and things just went from there.
How marvelous. Now, 30 people really were the authors. You know, co-authors, many co-authors, and yet when you read you look at the cover of the book, it says a story by Truly Blessed Inc. Now, what is Truly Blessed Inc?
That's the author's name. So if we have another book, it will be by Truly.
Okay, so all 30 of you have become this Truly Blessed Ink.
Right.
And it's E-I-N-K, like in pen and ink, not I-N-C.
We didn't want to get in any corporate trouble or anything, so we decided to go with INK.
There's actually 2 clever play on words in there, too.
TBI.
TBI. Yeah.
You have the initials TBI, and you also have INK, which, what is the book filled with?
Ink.
So the words in that book are.
There
also-
are some play on words on that.
I think it's wonderful. And you know, once again, inside the book, it's talked more about. And there's a creed that goes with the Truly Blessed Ink creed. And you have group meetings as this group.
Yeah, we have
okay?
group
And you
meetings.
do affirmations.
Yes.
Yes.
And I think we'll run those up on the screen when just so people can take a look at them themselves. Now, the book's been published, okay? How recently was it now? Really new, right?
September 97 was released.
September 07.
Oh, God. September 07.
Okay, so it's relatively new. And you're in the process of in essence, marketing it, right?
Yes.
Did you have a big gala launch for the book?
We had a release party.
We had a release party at Living Resources, and we have presented at conferences and other events through the brain injury.
So you're going on the road with this, huh?
Yes, we have. Not widespread, not outside New York State, but you know.
Okay, okay. And this is a part of that also, I think. So if somebody, okay, so you're gonna, I don't know what you're charging for the book. If you'd like to say that, that's fine. We want to talk about how you can get the book and what you're charging for the book. We also want to talk about what you're going to do with the money from the sales of this book, because I think there's a special designation for that. So how much is it, if someone wanted to buy a copy of this book, how much is it?
You probably know that one, Bob, right?
$16.
$16.95.
$16.95. Yep.
And you
Okay.
can buy it through Amazon.com
Oh, really?
or the Living Resources office.
Okay.
But there is one thing, we wanted to give a few copies away, for people who need it.
Could use it.
Okay. So you're also using that for that purpose as well?
Yep.
Yes.
That was one of the main
We're not
purposes.
we're not there to make a profit off the book.
I understand that.
Which is nice, but that's not our main purpose.
Now, what in collecting the monies that from the proceeds of this book, what are you planning to do with that money?
It's going into a fund that we have, the BIN, I believe, Brain Injury Now.
Brain Injury Now Project Fund.
Brain Injury Now. We're going to leave the money in the bank, but we're going to support other projects regarding brain injury, and eventually we may use the money for another such project, writing another book.
Well, that was the other question I was going to ask you. Now that you've had this wonderful thing happen and success from it, are you thinking of another book?
We're batting that. We batted it around a little
Yes.
bit, and if we do, I don't know if it may be not a children's book, but geared to a different audience or
age group.
whatever.
Which is going to be harder because teenagers are kind of standoffish.
I'll tell you, they're hard enough to get them to read anyway, but
Well-
teen reading is coming back. So
You guys have told me about a concept for a book based on a question that many people with brain injuries ask, and that question is, why me? And you guys talked about a possibility of doing a book called Why Me, but rather than a question being a statement and saying, here's why this happened to me, and here's the positive change that I've been able to create in my life and in the lives of others because of this injury. And that's a project that we're starting to kick around. You guys have also been working on a movie.
wow.
A movie to train staff on how to paper
Okay.
staff to work with people with TBIs. Because sometimes staff will make mistakes, and
We're having a
doesn't
little
help.
fun with it too.
It doesn't help.
I hope so.
It doesn't help people learn.
So
skills that
is
they
there a
need.
screening, or is there some kind of way to figure out exactly what someone's issue might be, so that there's a way now you'd be saying, these are the things you need to ask or look for? Or,
Well, actually, we're making a medieval story. This is very funny.
I love this.
It's
Almost like a
It's
Monty
like-
Python.
the Kingdom of Rotterdam. The Kingdom of Rotterdam is the place where it's done. We have a prince, a king,
What
a
happens?
fair maiden.
What happens to the prince?
He has a head injury, so the kingdom has called him Philip the Forgetful,
Okay.
and he has a brother who is Robert the Rotten. And
So you got an evil brother in there.
oh yeah,
Okay.
I don't know why they named him Robert. Don't know where that came from.
My name is Robert, so I would have wondered that too.
But we've been working on that and getting more serious.
It's
with
fun.
it.
It's fun to do this.
And
Well, that's a good word too, because I'm getting from this whole thing, this whole process, that you're having fun too. You're developing skills for yourself. You're also giving a message that's an important message for people
yeah,
to
this group is like
understand.
an extended family. I mean,
Yep.
they all care about me, and I care about them. Without them, we would not be where we are.
Excellent.
when we were working on that, and especially once Richard jumped on board, we kind of fed off of the positive energy that he had. And anytime we worked on the book or any kind of thing to do with it, the energy was just so positive. It was great. It
It's
really
contagious,
was.
isn't it?
Yes.
Isn't it? Nice
Yep.
to have somebody who's really inspired and not
Mhm.
thinking this is just a ho-hum job.
You know,
Yeah.
sometimes it's hard for people to get on the same page.
Yeah.
Oh, I'd imagine.
Now we had some issues with that, but once we got really rolling on it, we were all together
Yeah.
on the same page.
All egos were
what
put
we
aside.
what we
everything.
wanted and how it came about.
Excellent.
It's actually quite an amazing thing for me to be able to witness so many people working together towards one goal without that clash or without that sort of battle over recognition and things like that. Really just people willing to put, and like Scott said, it's a family. And in the family, there's family quarrels and things like that. But really, when it came to the book, you guys put everything aside.
No dueling egos here, huh?
No,
No.
none whatsoever.
No.
It seems like it's uncommon, in
With
the
a group
world.
that large, I would say it's not an easy
Well,
task.
try to get 30 people together to agree on anything. And now try to take 30 people with brain injury together. And it was really easier because the people with brain injury put everything aside and worked for this because we really wanted it. And we want to get that in the hands of people.
I
to
mean,
use
there
it.
were times where we just want to get it finished to something else,
I bet.
but we finally decided that time is best for all. The illustrator we came along later, and the new members joined. When a new member joins TB Living Resources, they're already an author because it's an ongoing project that never stops.
Okay.
How do these new authors get involved in the project? What do they do?
They're in the sales, word of mouth, whatever.
Yep, presentations.
Some marketing, sales? Do we find ways for people to get involved?
Sure, absolutely.
Now, we've talked about how people can find out about getting the book. They can go to Amazon.com. Can they go to your website and find out about it?
They can go to the publisher's website, which is squarecirclepress.com.
Okay, so we'll put that up there.
They can go to the Living Resources headquarters at 300 Washington Ave Extension in Albany, and we can
Okay.
sell them right from there. It's available through all online, retailers as well.
Okay. Now, if someone wants to learn, as a result of our conversation, wants to learn more about brain injury, how would they go about that?
They're always welcome to contact Living Resources and our acquired brain injury program.
Okay.
But they can also look to the Brain Injury Association of New York State.
Okay.
They're
They
located
can
on
also
Alden Ave.
sit in on a meeting if they want to, if they have the time. We can post the times if the group is up there
Okay.
after we shoot. So.
Okay. Yeah, well, like Robert said, I mean, just finding out that there are other people who have these concerns or have these issues, you don't know who you're going to draw in
Right.
as a result, even of this particular program, that somebody might be inspired to pursue something. So I want to make sure people had as much information as possible.
Yeah, this group has spurred other communities to do the same thing as we do. I don't think it'll be as successful as ours, but that's another story.
Well, it's a big accomplishment of the group. Well, you know, when this was set up as part of like a structured day program service, traditional structured day programs were programs where people would get dropped off maybe 9 o'clock in the morning and they would be picked up at 3. This group that's been started by Scott and the other members of Truly Blessed Inc. is not that type of a traditional day treatment program. You guys have
2 hours, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays.
So it's only 2 hours at a time. Some people show up once a week. Some people
And
show
there
up.
are other programs than just meeting programs. We have a garden group where we have a garden in Burnt Hills that we are producing, vegetables.
Cooking group?
We have a cooking group bi-weekly, where we learn how to cook easy meals that we can do in our own homes.
And the real test is if you can eat them, right?
Yes.
Never had any problem there.
Yeah. We never had a problem eating.
It's always been delicious.
What are some of the other groups you have?
We've also, during the football season, we go to a bar called Old Tools to watch Monday Night Football.
Okay, I know where that is.
We also have a YMCA group that meets Tuesdays and
program.
Thursdays.
So there's lots of activities. There's lots of
and
things.
we also
to
have
do.
a card night, the first Friday of every night of every month, where we play poker. Now, that might be strange, but we're there to have fun and not just
That should be the
make
bottom
money.
line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a big component of the group that's about providing support to one another. And when Scott mentions, many of the things seem social-based, going out and watching football, playing cards and things like that. But the card game actually started when one of the guys that was in our group said, I like playing cards, but all the guys I used to play cards with before my brain injury are into some trouble. They're, doing drugs, they're drinking beer, they're partying, they're having a good time, and I don't have a place to get together and just have a relaxing card game. And these guys all spoke up and said, how about once a month we get together and we play cards here? And so we have a card game. It's a fun thing. Many people really enjoy it, but it's also a way for this one gentleman to kind of connect with his pre-injury life without the bad habits that went with it.
Excellent. Well, we're right close to the end of the program, and I just wanted to give you an opportunity if I've missed something. I think we've covered a lot of territory today, but is there anything, a lasting message or something you want to restate that before we end the show today?
We just I want to say that if you think you have a brain injury, don't be afraid, because you can always make a positive contribution to your life. You can. My motto is never say never. Never say never. You can always accomplish something if you try.
Excellent. Excellent. Absolutely good message. Well, I want to thank you, gentlemen, for once again for agreeing to be on the show today. It was my pleasure to have you here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Pleasure
much.
to be here.
And thank you for joining me on Getting to Know You. I hope you enjoyed today's program and learned something as well. Until next time, have a good one.